Ever wondered what's really going on in the head of a researcher right before they have that big breakthrough? Well, today we're going to peel back the curtain. We're going to unravel the real psychological journey behind discovery. Let's get right into it.
So let's just start with this question right here, because it really gets to the core of everything we're talking about today. What if the keys to discovery aren't just for a handful of geniuses? What if it's not about some magic, untouchable brain power, but about a way of thinking, a process that, any of us can actually learn?
Yeah, we all know the story, right? The myth of the aha moment. The scientist getting hit on the head with an apple and suddenly, boom, there's the answer. But the reality? Oh, the reality is so much more gritty, and honestly, way more interesting. It's really a journey of psychological grit, of pure, hard-won preparation.
All right, so Section 1, Beyond the Aha Moment. To really get what's going on, we have to look past that shiny, romantic idea of a sudden breakthrough. Because the real story, well, it starts way, way before the final answer ever shows up.
You see it in movies all the time, right? This romanticized flash of insight. A dramatic moment where everything just clicks. And look, it makes for great TV, but it also makes discovery feel like this magical thing that's only for a select few. The truth is actually a lot more down to earth.
See, the real story begins long before that final answer appears. It's all about the stuff nobody sees, the endless hours, the dead ends that make you want to pull your hair out, and just the sheer mental toughness it takes to not give up. That is the foundation that makes any kind of aha moment possible in the first place.
So let's talk about that. Section 2, the researcher's inner world. Because all that groundwork, it happens right here, inside their head. We're not talking about fancy labs or beakers and test tubes. We're talking about the inner, psychological landscape where the real battle is fought and won.
Okay, so this inner journey kind of follows a pattern. First, there's deep immersion. This is where you don't just study the problem, you are living it. You're completely obsessed. But that obsession, it almost always leads to frustrating plateaus. You know that feeling, right? Hitting a brick wall where nothing works. But here's the magic. The key is the third step, persistent iteration. It's this endless cycle of trying something, failing, and this is crucial, adapting. It's about seeing that failure not as an end, but as new information.
And you have to understand, this isn't just a simple, straight path. This whole process is a landscape of psychological battles and triumphs. Every single time a researcher pushes through one of those frustrating plateaus, it's a huge win. It's a little victory over the urge to quit or the bias to just stick with what you think you know. And it's all those tiny wins that eventually lead to the big breakthrough.
So that's the process. But what kind of person could actually survive that, let alone thrive in it? Well, that brings us to Section 3, the innovator's mindset. Because it's not just about what these people do, it's about how they're wired to think.
Think of this as the cognitive blueprint, the secret sauce, if you will. It all kicks off with intense curiosity, not just wanting an answer, but being desperately hungry for it. Then you need humility to question assumptions, and that means being okay with being wrong a lot. You've also got to have comfort with ambiguity, being able to live in that messy, I don't know space without freaking out. Of course, there's resilience to failure, bouncing back again and again. And finally, cognitive flexibility, the ability to just drop an idea you love when the facts tell you it's a dead end.
And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The goal is not to be right, but to get it right. That requires being willing to be wrong over and over again. I mean, that really says it all. Your ego just has to get out of the way. It's not about being the brilliant one who gets it on the first try. It's about the humble, messy, persistent process of getting there.
Okay, so we've got the inner grind, we've got the innovator's mindset. Now we can finally talk about the breakthrough itself. Section 4, the anatomy of a breakthrough. And you'll see, it's not some kind of magic trick, it's the totally logical endpoint of everything we've just discussed.
So step 1, you're back to immersion. But this is the final push. You have soaked your brain in this problem. You've looked down every alley, you've hit every dead end, and your conscious mind is just overflowing with all the puzzle pieces.
And then comes the part we almost always skip, a period of mental incubation. You actually have to step away from the problem, let your subconscious take over. What's happening here is pretty cool, actually. Your brain starts making all these weird background connections between ideas, connections your super focused brain just couldn't see.
And finally, that's when it hits you. The connection is made. That's your moment of insight. But see, now it doesn't look like magic anymore, does it?
It's not a lightning bolt from a clear sky. It's the thing that bubbles to the surface after all that deep, hard work of preparation, struggle, and just letting your brain do its thing in the background.
Okay, so why should you care about any of this? Because this whole thing isn't just a cool story about famous scientists. It's literally a blueprint for how to solve hard problems. This is about your path to discovery in whatever you do.
So let's wrap this all up into the discovery mindset, the big takeaways. First, remember, it's not about being a genius, it's about trusting the process. Second, you gotta lean into curiosity and just refuse to give up. Third, give your brain a break. Let your ideas incubate. Sometimes walking away is the most productive thing you can do. And finally, and this might be the most important one, you have to start seeing failure as just data. It's a critical, unavoidable part of the journey.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Now that you know about this whole process, the immersion, the struggle, the incubation, and then the insight, what problem, what challenge in your own life, big or small, are you going to look at a little bit differently now?